Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Top Draw. We are back. We are bad. We have sacrificed many tiny rodents in order to summon the omnipotent Dr. Marshmellows.
Greetings.
I'm waiting for you to go with the greetings mortal thing. Did you, stop this?
I was going to go greetings, ladies and gentle ladies, but I decided not to. But I can do it again if you want.
Take two. Welcome, Marsh.
Greetings, ladies and gentle ladies.
It's already started. Anyway, welcome back to Top Draw, and welcome to our next episode, episode 18, where we look deeper into Battle for Gia and our part 2 segment. Now, before we go into that, obviously, if you haven't had a chance and you really want to see something funny, I highly recommend going to YouTube and checking out the quick bite / outtakes from Hearthstone's, our Top Draw version of Hearthstone this week. It's worth a laugh. It is really worth a laugh. So if you haven't had a chance to see it and you want to see Marsh and I make complete and utter fools of ourselves, by all means, go watch it. So, we're back to Battle for Gia. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, honestly, they have to be used to us making fools of ourselves by now.
Well, they're used to me making a fool of myself. You're usually I don't know, on a pedestal or something.
Sure, we'll go with that.
But yes, welcome, and hopefully you guys have actually had a chance to play some Battle for Gia. I know for a fact, actually a couple of people who've been in touch to let me know that they've started to play the game, and yeah, it is going to be a fun episode. Now, like we said last week, every single week we're going to dedicate certain specific elements of a game to the microscope. And last week, what we did is we looked at introductory content. And the reason for that is because when you first get your hands on a game, there's going to be introductory content. It makes no difference whether you are watching some kind of cinematic, which tries to explain to you the masters of the universe, or whether you are just given this incredibly short or long or no tutorial at all. So we did go through and we did play a little bit of a tutorial, and we did make some comments here and there about it. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Because this week, we're looking at one of my favorite topics, barrier to entry.
Yes, I've already pre-prepared Pseudo's soapbox for the afternoon. She will be putting her throne of, dead fanboys and whatnot. I crafted her a throne.
You crafted me a phone, huh?
A phone, yes.
Hello, Marsh. Marsh.
It was an apple isol.
An apple isol. My gosh, if it's not one show we're going to get in trouble for, it's another. But no. But yes, this week we are looking at the barrier to entry. Now, barrier to entry means?
Basically all the stuff that stops someone from either wanting to play, being able to play, or just those sort of little niggly things that when you run up against, you go, oh, this is just too hard. And you go, well, I might as well go play whatever. Card game X instead.
Right.
So, yeah, those sort of barrier entries it's quite possibly the most important thing for any card game to be able to objectively look at the things that stop their players from playing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a card gamer, it's also important to be able to understand those things that are stopping you from playing, because at the end of the day, you don't want to play something that's got too many barriers to entry, otherwise there's either not going to be enough of a player base to play against, or it's going to be too hard to get into, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, exactly. And it is worth noting that Battle for Gia is in open beta, and last week it went US, Canada.
Yes, live-ish. Went
Live-ish.
We're seeing lots of American flags, which I find hilarious because Canada. Yeah, well, there's a
I've
few
seen
US
Canadian
flags
flags.
now. You seen Canadian flags? I haven't seen
I
Canadian
have.
flags.
I have.
I just assumed they were all under the American flag because I haven't seen any Canadian flags. But sure, why not? I'll have to type in chat to them and go, how you doing? Maple syrup, that sort of stuff.
That's like worse than me trying to do an Australian accent. You so were nowhere near.
No, it's more. All right, we won't do accents anymore. How's that sound?
That's not gonna happen. We will.
No, it's really not.
You know how we are.
But yeah, so it's still in open beta, but it's just more regions have sort of unlocked for new players. So it used to be Spanish, so
Spain,
Spanish,
Portugal,
and like UK people and Italians as well. But now the US can jump on ship as well.
and Canada.
Yeah, they don't count.
Yes, they do.
I haven't seen their flag yet. They don't count.
Well, they do because I have seen their flag.
Fine.
You can tell it's been one of those weeks for Marsh and I. But yes, so we will be looking into the barrier for, and just, we're looking at the barrier to playing a game in this particular week is Battle for Gia. So anyway. Force fields. For some reason, now I have this picture in my head of like, walking towards a door and walking into it instead of having going, because of Star Trek. So, hey. So yes, we are moving back into Battle for Gia. So what you're going to be seeing is Marsh and I are going to be talking a lot, but we did play some games earlier and they're going to be over on the side and they'll appear periodically and give you a chance to actually watch, because there are certain things that have happened that kind of make us both, I think the easiest way to put it is the barrier to entry for this game is kind of like crossing your eyes. At least that's what it feels like to me, because I spend so much of my time going, what?
Well, that's such a good look, Pseudo. That's sexy.
Thanks. But yes, I do spend a lot of my time sitting there with my eyes crossed, scratching my head going, okay, wait, what? And I'm wondering if it has something to do with some of the things that we've picked up on and we will go into. Now, again, I stress this is in beta. So, I truly expect the experience itself to get better. I do not believe that any of our barrier to entry, I guess you would call them gripes, are things that cannot be solved. It's not like fundamentally and dynamically changing the gameplay experience or saying that the skirmish tactic kind of battles, which are these quick battles, which Battle for Gia is about, are wrong. So I'd have to say that quite a few of the little, I'd almost want to call them snags, nitpicks that we have are things that can be solved without drastically changing the game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And at the end of the game, go ahead. No. At the end of the day, if you like the idea of Battle for Gia, and Battle for if you like the idea of Battle for Gia, and you like the idea of the quick skirmish, it takes a couple of minutes to get some points and to do some other stuff and all this kind of stuff. If you like it, the whole idea right now, because it's an open beta, is that if you like it, you need to play it and you need to click that little feedback bar on the left-hand side of your screen and go, look, this isn't working for me. And the developers are fairly open, saying, look, sure, if some things are good, we love the fact that you guys enjoy stuff, and if they're not so good, well, maybe there's stuff we have to look at. So that's the job of a developer, but you have a job as a player to submit that feedback so that they know. You can't just assume that a developer knows what's wrong with their game, because
or
what's
invested. Right.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Do make certain. I mean, Marsh and I are kind of lucky in the fact that we actually get to state publicly and to the developers of Gia, hi.
Hi.
Hopefully we get one of you or some of you on the show with us so we can actually discuss the methodologies and things. But what it comes down to is we're lucky in the fact that we get to vocalize, and like we said, we're trying to stay in contact with the developers and everything to ensure that they see every time we've got a new feature out about them or a new discussion. So we're kind of lucky in the respect that we get to give slightly direct but not so quite direct feedback. You know what I mean? But everybody else needs to actually take the time and make certain to inform both the good and the bad. If you really like something, seriously say so. Let them know. Don't just let it be a whole can of this is crap. Well, explain what is the problem. And that is something, if you don't quite understand how to do betas, it can get a little frustrating. But in the end, your feedback, both good and bad, will influence the future of this game. Enough said. Enough said. So, with that in mind, and that little, I almost now picture like this, us holding little rulers to like smack people's knuckles with. No, that is not how you beta. No.
Like the scene in Blues Brothers.
Yes, exactly.
You don't remember that scene with the nun?
Yes, I do.
Militant nuns, the best type of nun. But no, just to recap, yeah, it's as a player you have the responsibility. Fairly plainly put, you have a responsibility as a player. If you're not, if you pay $40 to play a game, then the developer has a responsibility to make sure it's up to par for most players. But if you're getting a game ostensibly for free, and you're just playing it in beta or in alpha or in anything, you have a responsibility. You're getting enjoyment out of this game. You're getting all this stuff from this game for absolutely nothing. It's your responsibility to inform the developers.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what a lot of our show in itself is about, not just this episode, but all of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yes, shall we dig in?
We shall.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and give a small recap from our last episode, though. Trust me, you are going to want to go back and watch it, especially if you want to play this game. Battle for Gia is a strategy trading card game. There is a marketplace that allows you to sell cards, which we'll get into at some point. We have also had, it does have quite a bit of strategy to it, and the fact that they are quick skirmishes. We haven't gone into detail about the decks yet, because that's going to be a bit about some of the things that we do within this episode and some of the things in the future as well. But the difference in this game from a lot of the online TCGs out there is the fact that you're not attacking health, you're attacking morale. As long as you have more morale than the other player, you win. You do not need to knock them down to zero. In the last episode, we said, you have quick skirmishes. You have like 4 attacks and then it's over. The reality is it could actually be more, but we'll get into that in this episode. But yes, they're very quick skirmishes. You use command points as a resource to help you build up the attacks that you are doing with each of the individual pieces on the board. You have 4 in which you control. The other 2 are basically things that give bonuses. There's a general and there's a support. And it's just a bunch of quick attacks. And then the game is over and you find out who won. That's really the very basics of this game.
It really is. I liken it a lot like to chess. It's chess the card game.
Yeah.
It's really quick, then you're a little bit unassuming, and it's incredibly complex when you actually start to understand all the mechanics and I think my opponent's going to do this, so I'm going to do this, but if they think I'm going to do this, I should do this instead, and all this sort of stuff. It's a lot like the sort of strategies behind chess. It's like 4-card chess, really. I love it. It's great.
It is an absolutely brilliant game. That's the thing, that you're going to see shortly a match where I actually beat Marsh, and pretty much the entire time that we were playing it, Marsh was wait a second. Wait, what? How? No. And it's like, I didn't expect you to do what you did. And I'm all like, mm-hmm. You know? So in a way, most of the time when you sit down to play a TCG, it makes a difference whether it's in a tabletop or whether you're sitting across from someone else. You're constantly thinking, okay, how is this person going to play the cards that are potentially in their deck? That is like how it works. And in fact, this to me is not so much chess as poker. Because poker, you play more the player than you do the cards. The cards are an added benefit, but you know, technically speaking, you're going up against the other players. Are they bluffing? Are they not bluffing? There's so much behind it. So in a way, this game seems to, at least to me, because you have all the cards on the table, it is literally you playing the opponent, not always the cards. And I like
that's exactly it. Look, everything. You know everything that's going to happen. There's only one thing. Oh, sorry, no. There's two things in the entire game that you don't know what's going to happen, and that's how your opponent is going to use their command points.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, actually, it's three things. Now that I think about it, how your opponent's going to use their command points, whether they're going to use the impetus ability, and what they're going to attack with or defend with. But other than that, you know absolutely all the other factors. You know what cards are on the table, what possibilities could happen, you know what effects are in play, all this sort of stuff. And there's only three real things you have to think about, but you don't know how your opponent's going to use all these resources. That's what makes the game incredibly strategic and sort of, it comes down to a massive game of he said, she said, he said sort of stuff. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes you just go, we'll put 3 points into it and just hope it works. And sometimes you go, this is going to be awesome. I'll put 3 points into it and it will smash him and I've only used 3 points sort of thing.
Or that whole, oh my gosh, if I use 3 points, oh dear. I am now going to suffer. And that was a waste because
I just wasted 3 points.
Yes. Yeah. So it definitely is a strategy game. So that's a little foundation behind what Battle Phrygia is. And now I could just put in a couple hours of play and go, well, it's either for me or it's not for me. And that may happen someday or another. But I like this game. So I want to make certain that I can bring a challenge and I can learn because that's a big part of things. I have used the help. I've clicked help and read every single line of the help file. And I will tell you, I'm still slightly confused. Now, we've mentioned this before, and I'm not going to berate into it or dig into it because it was mentioned once. There's no reason for us to beat this to a pulp, but translation is difficult. And I do believe quite a bit of this game's mechanics are lost in translation, which means I spend more time playing the game going, I think it's supposed to be this. No. So I'm playing by trial and error, and that gets frustrating. Because if I win, I have no clue why. And if I lose, I have no clue why. Now, obvious answer is, yeah, your morale wasn't as high as the other person's. But it's the little individual skirmishes between the various pieces on the board that get confusing for me.
Yeah, look, it's not. It is a massive barrier to entry. The translations itself. If you lose, speaking as a linguist, you lose not only information but attention. you lose engagement by spelling things wrong, and you always bitch and moan about your teacher correcting your spelling and say you need to learn how to spell this. Why? Because it's spell checker and blah blah. Yeah, but if as soon as you misspell a word, someone's going, "This guy's an idiot. He doesn't know how to spell, you know, sextuplin billion bleh." And you go, well, is this person, every time you see a spelling mistake, you go, is this worth reading anymore? Are there going to be more spelling checks? Is it going to take me more effort than it should to read onwards? And unfortunately, when it comes down to language, if the reading is too hard, you go and read something else that isn't quite as hard, unless you're, you know, being paid to do it. But
yeah,
it's not the idea behind making sure translations are proper isn't just to make sure you get the information across. It's to maintain readers' engagement. It's to make sure that they continue reading because this information is important. And this is the most glaring barrier to entry at this point with the game, is the fact that you see things that are not translated properly, and you're right, you do lose a lot of information from going, well, I'm not quite sure what flanking does right now because the flanking thing is a bit, I'm not quite sure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, like, for example, a perfect example of this is in the help file itself. And you guys will be able to see it there. But, you know, there is in the help file a question that says, what is the strategic value? Now, first off, in none of the tutorial does it mention anything about strategic values at all. So I'm like, I don't even know what this is supposed to be. Now, the way it reads is this. It is the variable number of standards under the card image. Now, I'm assuming that this is the little diamond that separates the card image from what it has for the abilities that are either individual or team-based. So that's my assumption.
This is the thing we've been calling creature morale for the last, 2 weeks.
Yes, exactly. But the next line, the next sentence says, it wins the card with less strategic value. I don't get it. I want to understand because I want to play this game to the best benefit that I can. And like I said, I don't want to beat it up too much, but it's little things like that. Now, this can, to me, mean a variety of things. That statement could mean as long as I have a smaller number of what I call diamonds, or as we call it, creature morale, inside, I should always win. End of story. Because that's the way it reads. Another one is, this is maybe in those tie-breaking moments, the one who has the least wins. However, I have seen occasions where the one with the most wins, even though there's a tie. So it's like, However, apparently, what this builds towards is the ability to go first in the game as an initiative. And it's just one of those slightly confusing things, and it just, no matter how much I try, I keep finding myself getting lost. And it could be the fact that I'm a casual player, so I take that on board as part on me, but also part on the fact that, you know, as a casual player, I don't have a lot of time to sit there and go, I think this is how it's going to work, let me try it. And then sit there and do the math and go, okay, that didn't quite work out the way it is, this is what they actually mean by it, etc. So I admit fully that least part of it is sitting on me, the fact that I can't just always, I want to go in and just quickly play. I don't want to take the time to try to figure out what the rules are based on the reactions of what has occurred. You know what I mean?
Look, I think I've always been a fan of stating that if you have an issue with the game, or if you have an issue with anything, especially when giving feedback, it's always more advantageous to proffer a solution. If you're going, it doesn't have to be a great solution, but it has to, you know, put them on the right track to somewhere. Yeah. So I agree that the translations are holding them back in their information to teach people how to play. Um, and look, I think a lot of it, after reading through a lot of it, I think a lot of it comes down to the ambiguity in the English language.
I agree.
And yes, and how when you say one thing, it could mean several different things to several different people. You need, ideally, they need to, like, it feels like a lot of this was like a Google Translate job, which I know it probably wasn't, but a lot of it reads as though there's been no consideration towards the different meanings of the same words. I feel as though to have this done properly, maybe they just need to like hire someone who is so it's a Spanish company, so maybe like a American who also speaks Spanish, or like someone who originally speaks English and speaks Spanish as a second language to do the translations, so that way they understand better the ambiguities of the English language, as opposed to the other way around, where someone who originally speaks Spanish and as a second language translates into English, there's a lot of the subtleties of the English language is lost because it's an extremely complex language. It's one of the hardest languages in the world to learn because it takes from so many other languages and has so much ambiguity. If they were to do that, I feel as though the help sections, the tutorials and everything, I think it'd make the game feel a lot more inviting, because you sit there and go, oh look, they've made an effort. This is like the third or the fourth or the fifth language that the game's being translated into, you know, and all the translations are spot on.
See, that's
so
the
it makes
thing.
you want to pay attention.
See, that's the thing. I mean, one of the things you and I have discussed is the fact that I fully admit I'm still lost playing the game, and I have redone the tutorials like 14 times. I have played against other people multiple times, and I'm still sitting there going, and I don't. I mean, one could say maybe it's the rules are complicated. Maybe that's what the problem is. I'm not so certain. I think the rules are actually really simple. I think that the amazing versatility that they have of these special abilities that the support cards have, the generals have, and that the individual cards themselves have are really interesting. I just don't fully understand what they all do. And that is a serious, serious detriment to the game. So in the end, you know, I don't think the game is as complex as it actually is. I think it's just more a matter of trying to understand what they're trying to get across. And that itself is just a pure language thing.
Well, that comes down to a two-parter. That's, as we spoke about last episode, that I won't harp on, and that most people will know I will harp on about at the drop of the hat, is the fact that tutorials need to be tweaked.
Yeah,
to
they
be a
do.
little less complex and explain in depth a little bit more different aspects of the game.
Yeah.
And the English needs to be just a little bit sharper, so that a lot of the very complex ideas behind these abilities aren't lost in translation.
Yeah, and I would also throw out there, for the tutorials, keep the cards the same.
Yes.
Don't mix them up, because I'll go to do a tutorial and it's a completely different set of cards in a completely different location in a completely different position. And that actually makes it more difficult because I can't see a repetitive nature. I can't learn from, you know, seeing it happen multiple times, because some people can learn through reading. Some people learn through action, you know, and when you have the pieces constantly moving, it does make it more difficult to grasp a concept, because you're like, well, that piece wasn't there now, so I have to learn an entire new card and figure out what it is it's trying to do. And they're doing it differently here, because there's this one tutorial that is all about exhaustion, and it teaches you how it is that a card can survive and attack more than once in a skirmish, in a game. Yet depending upon what card is played where, you can find yourself losing constantly. You can find yourself going, what? Wait, why? I don't understand. Wait, I'm sorry. How did that happen? And I love the concept of exhaustion. I love the concept that you could have a card that sticks around and attacks twice. I mean, that's epic. It means that you could potentially have, and it's not going to happen because of balancing, but you could potentially have an 8-turn card game.
Yeah.
You could potentially have that. Granted, by laws of math, that would not occur.
Damn it, math.
Darn you. I bet you math was invented by Murphy. Murphy and Sod.
I agree.
Murphy and Sod got together and created math. But still, the point behind it is, because of the fact that it's random, it does make it more difficult to latch on, and it does feel slightly overwhelming. But that's that. So that is a little bit about how the rule sets is. I still think it's just a language thing more so than the rules being complicated themselves.
I agree.
The board itself, which is something we'll get into when we go to the actual design concept of things, I don't think it's as complex. I think it's more compact than it needs to be.
Yeah, look, I would like to see the playboard go a little bit more widescreen. I'd like to have a little bit more of an ability to sort of move around the board, have bigger pictures, have bigger writing. Bigger writing is a big thing for me.
The font's a little bit too small for me.
Yeah.
Even when I take it full screen.
Like right now I'm wearing contacts, but people haven't seen me wear my glasses. But I tend not to play computer games with my glasses on. So I need something that has a bit more of a variable in the text size. I need to be able to zoom in or zoom out or something, and because it's browser based, it's not really working for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, it feels like it's been squished a little bit. And I understand why that is, because you've got the feedback menu that comes out on one side and the chat screen that comes out on the other side and all this sort of stuff. But I feel like those could work as overlays.
Yeah.
And you could just extend, like have it, extend and be, maybe different options for extension, make them static, but be like, you could have it widescreen, you could have it this resolution, you could have it that resolution.
Yeah.
Or make it so that maybe there's a drag box or something for it.
Well, we'll go into much more detail when we get to the design portion of the show.
Yeah.
But I will state, this is the thing that kind of, it made me pause. It is very difficult when text is very tiny and the font they use is not like the most peaceful of fonts. So I end up spending quite a bit of my time going, squinty. I think that means that I'm not exactly certain. And then things get cut off or they get smushed and it makes it very hard to read. I like the fact that they went with some kind of unique font style. I like the fact that when you click on a card, it pulls it up. But it's not big enough for me. But again, we'll get into that. It just because of the fact that everything is so smushed together, the feeling for a barrier to entry is, whoa, so much stuff. Clicking on full screen doesn't really do anything except make it full screen with the board the same size.
Yeah.
It's a little complicatedly not quite what I was thinking it would do. I was hoping it would spread out and I could actually see everything and maybe have it so that the cards themselves are in full instead of when you hover over them, they expand. I mean, but yes.
Yeah, look, taking it back a little, people who know me, and now you people will now know that I'm a huge fan of typography, which is basically your font, your choice of font.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the font on the cards because it makes the important things stand out properly. It looks like something like the Game of Thrones book should be in this one, in my opinions. Um, but
That's a mighty big, like, compliment right there.
it suits the sort of darkish theme of the game very well, but sometimes it is a little bit too hard to read when you're squishing a lot of stuff in there. I feel as the text size goes down to fit more stuff into a text box, the harder the text is to read, and that's starting to become a real issue as you start collecting rarer and rarer cards that tend to have more text in them.
Yeah, agreed. And that can make it very difficult to try to, stay engaged with the game itself.
Yeah. All right.
Go on. I know you've got something to say.
I was going to move on. Are you prepared to move on?
Oh, I'm prepared to move on, but I just know you've got something to say.
No, not really. I always have stuff to say. Look, the next one
I was basically letting you lead us into the next topic is really where I was going with it.
I know, I'm not used to it though. It never happens to me. Look, we're going to stay on the topic of, stuff being a little bit too swished right now, and just very quickly, I want to propose that if they want to keep the same sort of theme that they have to the text right now, they should consider having like a scroll over or a mouse over option to the cards, in which when you mouse over some of the text, it sort of brings up a little thing that says, well, here's all the text, sort of. If I put my cursor over a card on my board that says flanking, I want a little pop-up to go flanking. Flanking does, kind of like in the expanded version of the card when you click on it, except it should be as a scroll over option, because I have a minute and 30 seconds to think about all the stuff I need to do in my turn. I don't always have the time to be looking at something, especially as a new player. You don't really have a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And when we've been having some lag issues as well, so I've had like 20 seconds to take my turn, and there's just not enough time to be able to do that in between turns right now. So just a very little primer on what flank it is. When you scroll over it, done and dusted. It'd make the game so much easier to play. The playability would increase drastically.
I agree.
Just having those extra definitions there.
I agree, and it can be easily done with like adding an underline and modifying the font color ever so slightly so people understand if you click or hover, something special will occur.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that solves the entire issue.
It does
solve the entire issue there.
Yeah, absolutely would.
Okay.
Right. So, as we move forward, I'm assuming, considering the fact that we have really elegantly created show notes today from Dr. Marshmellows, what we're going to do is move to the next one because we've kind of covered that one.
One day we're going to have to publish these show notes for people, and I am actually going to have the CIA knocking at my door.
Well, some of the things that we do are just a little bit wrong in our show notes, but that's something we'll share some other day. Has nothing to do with the Mad Bomber.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
All right, so moving on. The biggest, we did actually talk about this last week a little bit, but I think it warrants a little bit more of an examination of the barrier to entry portion, is the fact that the game is browser-based. Well, it limits. It's not a limit to how you play, because there's so much stuff you can do with browsers these days, it doesn't matter. But it limits the audience to which that they can disseminate their product to. At the end of the day, if you're playing a game, you want as many other people playing this game as well, because it's going to increase your experience.
Yeah.
And when it comes to being browser-based, like Candy Crush and all that sort of stuff, it's great because it's browser-based. But something like this needs to be either attached to something, or a simple game like this could come up in the form of something like SoulForge, where it's very, very simple, very economical to download, and it's got everything in it. and that way you remove it from the browser, and you can do a lot more with it, and lot more people have Steam and can see it just sort of browsing through Steam than actually have to be directed to a website.
Well, see, there's pros and cons to this one. And I'm going to kind of err on the side of browser is awesome because that is the deployment method. That is the application. And my terminology has completely lost me. But the thing is, the interface. That is the application interface. And it is actually a good thing and a bad thing. Now, yes, it would be a lot easier if there was a client, so to speak, that you could just download and then you could make it as big as you want and you could do the full screen, the not so full screen and everything else that goes with it. But that adds a whole nother layer of development, iterative bug fixing and trial and error to the process than if it was just simply on the web. So if you are a small development independent team and you do not have AAA gaming budget kind of a deal, going browser actually makes a lot of sense. But it does mean that you need to ensure that any of the stuff, and this goes slightly into the design show, but I feel it's worth defending their choice for browser. It does mean that you have to deal with multiple browsers. It does mean that some commands aren't going to work well in certain browsers as they will in another, depending upon what language or scripting language you use to actually develop this. But because of the fact that they've got the browser, they have the ability to basically do what you've asked previously, the hover and all of that stuff. There's so many things already built into the browser language development stuff that they don't have to spend time developing a client and going, will it work on a machine that is running this graphic card? Will it work on a machine that has this much memory? It's based on the browser. So
this is why I love having you on the show. I love being on this show because I would never have thought of that. That's a brilliant thing. I didn't even consider that all this stuff already exists. All this stuff that we're sort of going, maybe you should try this. It all sort of already exists in one form or another.
Absolutely.
That's sort of a mind blow moment for me.
Do I get a gold star?
You can have a gold star for that.
Yes.
Look, I think you defended their position on bringing it out browser-based quite well in that regard. I'm a little bit lost for words now. My reasoning for it was, how do you draw people to a game like this on browser-based anymore?
It's a matter of accessibility. See, it's a matter of accessibility. Browser-based games are growing more and more and more and more in popularity. Now, what we don't see currently involved in this is the typical connect it to your Facebook and challenge your friends to gain X, Y, and Z, which is actually a marketing ploy. Because
I'd love to see that too.
In fact, I'd actually support that based on one of the things we're about to bring up. But the kind of almost getting your audience to share their experiences. Whether it's I've got an achievement because I've killed 100 trolls, or I got an achievement because I killed I won the last 10 games using a chaos deck, which, might I add, you had made mention that you wanted to see achievements in the game. There are a lot of achievements in the game. Holy cow. There are a heck of a lot of achievements in the game. So it's really, really lovely to see that. But, having that kind of, I want to almost say it force du jour, but it's not force du jour. It's just the using social media to your advantage. Really is the key.
It makes your game self-propagating.
It does. But it does have a cost because of APIs.
Yeah. But I'm not. Look, I say what I say about marketing and the player base and all that sort of stuff. We're going to go into a few things that require a player base, and the reason they're not working right now in game is because there is no player base, and that's why this is in the barrier to entry portion for those people that are going, this has nothing to do with barrier of entry.
Yes, it does.
The player base is extremely important, and I question right now the ability for this game to be disseminated. And see, the problem right now is Facebook sort of seems to be the be all end all and be all and end that of social sort of games like Candy Crush and I don't know, Ghost Trapper or what else. And people play that because it's attached to their Facebook. And this game needs something to sort of, I want to be able to invite my friends to come play with me and to see how well I'm
Yeah.
doing. And I need, not only that, I need a friends list so that I know when my friends are playing and doing well.
Mm.
Yeah,
Or
I
a
need some sort of social
communication.
aspect.
Yeah, that's the thing. The social side of things is another episode, as you'll see. But the way that it's set up right now, and it could be a beta thing for all we are aware of, but honestly, it makes it very difficult to challenge your friends. It does. I have a huge list of TCG players that I love to play with, and I make mention, "Hey guys, this is what I'm currently playing." And I think in the past like 4 days, I've already had like 16 or 17 register and try the game. And I've had a variety of feedback. One of the most frustrating was, "Who are you in the game? Can
Yeah.
I track you? Can I compare my score against yours?" You kind of can, but not really. And the competitive nature of TCG players to begin with, you want to have some way to not necessarily troll the people, but to say, "Hey, I'm following you. I'm playing. Let's go play a game together. I just noticed you logged in, or I just noticed that you got active." And it can be a little difficult when you start dealing with browser based things because you deal with session timers and things like that, which is inherent within the let's say someone logs in but decides to leave it open in one of their 5,000 Chrome tabs or 5 million, Firefox tabs. Yes, Matterwar. I'm talking about you. But, having the ability to engage with the people who are in the community is so important. And right now it seems a little difficult. It doesn't seem it. It is difficult. I'm just going to be blunt about that. But yes, so moving quickly forward because we're getting closer and closer to the end of the show.
We are.
We are.
Look, at this point where we are getting close to the end, we want to say that you've got to be cruel to be kind.
Yeah,
really,
in some respects.
I personally, I'm not completely sure about Pseudo's thing, but personally, I love this game. I wish there was some things that were a little bit, just a little bit cleaner around the edges. But it's nothing that a little bit of extra time and TLC can't deal with.
Like
There's
we
no
said, yeah.
fundamental flaws to this game.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that should happen and things that could increase, but there's nothing that absolutely needs to happen to make me want to play this game because I already play it. To go on to that though, there is a big thing that is going to stop me from playing it after this review. There's things that are going to stop lots of people playing it, and that is it does have an unproportional paywall to get boosters. And this comes down to a mix between the euro being an absolutely ridiculous currency to trade in at any point in time, and the fact that the two ways to get cards are coins in which you accumulate through logging on or through playing games, which are used in the market, and ingots at which you buy cards either through boosters or buying decks.
Mm-hmm.
So these ingots are the ones you pay for, coins are the ones you get for free. Coins you use in the market to buy specific cards, ingots you use to buy boosters which can have random cards in them. These boosters, for the conversion rates, are very, very expensive. I'm speaking to someone who sits outside of the European Union and actually has to convert my money to euros. It costs me $5 to buy 4 cards. 5 Australian dollars. That is a lot of money for me. That's 4 cards. I paid $5 to get a pack of 12 Magic the Gathering cards, and that gives me a physical card that I have forever, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it seems as though the amount of money I paid to get more cards in this game really is really too high. And there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
Of course, the more ingots you buy at one time, the cheaper
More
the overall
affordable
conversion
bulk.
is.
Yep.
But you've got to look at there's two ends to it. The one that people buy most, and the most one person could buy. And if the most one person could buy isn't getting used because people just can't afford that, like not very many people are going to drop 100 euros on a game. Period. Really. And people are only going to buy a certain amount of like $5 sort of packets before they either get to a point where they can, buy everything they need with coins because their card base is good already, or stop playing altogether because it's gotten too expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think there needs to be some kind of way to do both types of transactions. For example, say somebody, because anyone who chooses to believe that a TCG is not a pay to win, think again. I have
Yeah.
yet to run across one where it's not the more money you put in, the better chances you have at cards. And if you get cards you don't want, you get duplicates of, you just sell them off to somebody else who doesn't have them so that you can afford to buy the bigger cards. I mean, that is a little bit about the background behind where free to play comes from, but it's also pay to win. And that is it works for the TCG genre because just because you put in £5, in my case, because I live in the United Kingdom, and Marsh puts in the equivalent of £5, doesn't mean we're going to get the exact same cards. And even if we did, it doesn't mean that we're going to be exactly the same successful level because it still comes back to players' skill.
Yeah.
So the way it works, the pay to win model within the TCG is actually a good thing. And it also helps to encourage the developers, and it also helps to encourage the balancing process for future releases of cards because it's important. But there needs to be a way through gold to get boosters and play in the market. There needs to be a way through ingots to get boosters and buy things in the market. That would actually level it out a little bit.
That would level it out a lot. But your problem is the market is based off of extra cards, and it'd be very hard for them to go increments of an ingot. Because an ingot's already worth so much.
That's true, but at the same time, it also requires having a fan base that doesn't overinflate the market.
Yeah. And it's not only that. I feel the solution is a little bit more complex and elegant than that.
Oh yeah.
I feel the solution is going to be something along the lines of allowing, like right now, players can get any card they want in the market as long as it's on the market and they have enough coins. But I feel as though there needs to be some way to inject extra cards into the card economy. Hearthstone does it really well. To harken on back to something that we did a while back now, and that is Hearthstone. You can buy packs, and you can earn gold, and these gold let you buy packs. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to work the same way. You shouldn't. You could be able to convert coins to ingots to be able to use ingots to buy packs, but that's a little bit. Ideally, maybe there should be some way to turn coins straight into packs. I feel.
I agree.
And that would increase the ability and increase the actual amount of cards in the market, increase market play. People could then play the market to get coins to buy packs. And in that way, it no way devalues the ingot, which is their primary method of getting money in this sense.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree to that. And I mean, yeah, when it comes down to it, if you want to have a actual TCG, you might want to look at some way of policing the market. You really
Yes.
need something to police the market. I know it's kind of interesting to me looking back over my years of playing and purchasing cards through like Magic, because that's one of the games where I sought specific cards out. And if someone had a card at a particular store and they had to call around, and the price was relatively the same wherever you went, because there was some form of policing to the economy for those cards. But when you have a situation where there is a card available and the card is a common card, and yet it is so expensive, you will never see it within the first 3 months of play, and it's a common card, and you can't afford it within the first 3 months of play, something's gone a little off kilter with the economy. Just a little. But yes,
Yeah.
and moving on to the very last thing, which I definitely want to make certain gets brought up, and it should have been brought up kind of a little earlier before we started moving away from gameplay and things like that. But honestly, there needs to be some way for all of that lovely text that kind of explains what the army trait is and what the individual unit trait is, kind of need to be updated on the fly.
Yeah.
I'm
It's not.
that really confuses me, especially when cards disappear
Yeah.
off the board, or even worse, you attack and the card that you're fighting against dies, and yet it stays on the board. Or it loses the battle
Yeah.
and still stays on the board.
There's two aspects to this. The first one, we feel there's actually some sort of bug in the game right now. I will let Pseudo take this. I've set up Pseudo's soapbox. This is Pseudo's soapbox moment.
Hello, I'm on a soapbox. Yeah, I don't know whether it's because a card doesn't exhaust or what have you, but I've had it happen in the tutorial, in the very, very first tutorial, where I attacked a card and I did more damage. So obviously I won that little battle. I did damage to the morale of the opposing player, and yet the card I went up against stayed on the board. So I ended up going, wait. If it's staying on the board, and this is like in the very first tutorial, so this is tutorial 1 before we go into exhaustion or anything else like this. I was sitting there going, so wait, it's going to stay there so it can attack me? So I have to change my strategy a little bit? And it threw me for an absolute loop. Absolute loop. It confused me so bad, I actually got up and walked away.
Now, Pseudo, did you submit a bug report?
I did not. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I know I'm going to have a chance to say it here.
All right. So that's a fair enough reason.
That's the only reason why I did not, to be perfectly honest with you. I specifically say I have a couple of people who I try to play the game with. And anytime they go, well, this seems a little awkward, I'm like, well, yeah, definitely make certain you click that support thing and let them know.
Yeah. Look, it goes back to responsibility yet again. You have a Pseudo scapegoated her responsibility a little bit by bringing it onto the show. But if you find a bug, you have a responsibility. It's an open beta.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to stress this at this point, is that, we've torn the game a little bit to pieces at this point. We've played a lot of the game, and these are the things that we've picked up on that need a little bit more polishing.
TLC, tender loving care.
Yeah, TLC.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we have the responsibility as the reviewers.
Yes.
You have the responsibility as the player to make that report to make the game better. And the devs have a responsibility to listen to us. They don't necessarily have to agree with us. And
exactly.
They don't have to do anything about it, but they have the responsibility to listen to us because we are playing their game. But at this point, we want to make sure everyone knows that there's no malice behind what we're saying. We're not throwing the game down and kicking it in the shins. But these are the sort of things we need to talk about.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Marsh. Marsh asked my opinion on this before. I absolutely love the idea behind this game. I really do. I love the idea that there are, 3 different orders, and you can intermingle them ever so slightly and get different results. And it can be huge impact on the board if you do your deck a certain way. And I love the entire methodology behind it. It's just there are a couple of things that are really frustrating. I'll be perfectly blunt, that paywall being what it is terrifying to me. I don't have much time or money to spend on things like this, especially if I'm just looking at doing, a couple of games a day, maybe one or two.
Yeah.
If the paywall was lower and much more manageable, I would seriously consider throwing some cash into the game once or twice a month.
Yeah, or even the alternate pay scale, make it hard to get boosters, but let them get boosters through coins.
Yeah.
It's worked for lots of other games. You can see lots of iterations of it. There's IP in League of Legends. There's whatever it is in Dota. I've forgotten what it's called. There's gold in Hearthstone. There's lots of stuff where lots of examples that a system like that has worked. Absolutely. And you've got to consider the bonuses of such a system. I think our final. I've actually subverted our final topic a little. Our final thing was just the card buffs updating. Look, this is a huge thing for me, especially as someone who's still learning the game. I'm, as everyone knows, Pseudo doesn't have as much experience as me, and I have too much experience than anyone ever wants to have. But there needs to be, you have the option to have, you have permanent global buffs and debuffs through generals and through the support cards. These should be reflected in the cards themselves. Sure, if someone clicks on the info for the card, bring up the original and the altered version, but there needs to be some way to show that, this creature has extra morale, this creature has less morale, this creature has extra attack, this creature has less attack. All those sort of little niggly things needs to be represented somehow, because I've got to admit, sometimes I just forget that there's a support card in play because it doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden on my last attack when I'm trying to do something, it's like, oh no, it has an extra morale, what am I doing? Oh, son of it. So there needs to be some way that those sort of global buffs and debuffs are represented.
Absolutely.
And even if you make it red, there you go. Easy way to do it. Change the text, make it red. Red text means this text has been altered, and
you can hover over to see the original value.
Yep, and it's red, so I'm immediately drawn to it. Oh, look at that, it's been altered.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So
right.
I will reiterate again. This particular one, the barrier to entry, and this is a forewarning to everybody. It makes no difference what card game we look at. This is going to be one of the most brutal of the topics you will ever run across for two very specific reasons. One, Marsh is a teacher, a trained teacher. So Marsh understands educational methodologies, and that is an incredibly important and passionate subject matter in his life. For me, if I cannot understand how a game works as a casual player, I'm gone. And that can kill a game. So it's this particular episode, people may go, oh my God, you guys just basically ripped into it. No, we really do like the game. And I will stress it again, I really do like this game. In fact, please do me a favor. When you are logged into the game, look for Pseudo. Send me a message and play me. Or literally, because there is in-game messaging. So feel free to send me an in-game message and let me know when you might be around or something, and I'll see if I can't set something up to play with you. But, these little things can kill the game. Because if you don't get the barrier to entry just right, you will ostracize potential players, or you will create an environment where everything else that we go to discuss means nothing.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing we're trying to avoid.
Yes.
I can guarantee if we run into a game that just has so many barrier to entries and there is no point doing the next 3 shows,
Absolutely.
we won't.
Exactly. I will not waste my time.
If your game gets 5 shows on top draws, chances are it's fairly good. Because I will up and drop something because we have a lot of people going, do my game, right now. And look, as we said, rough around the edges, but a good game.
That's the thing. Like I said, every single thing that we've mentioned are things that we believe can be modified, worked with, developed to better the game. It's not us saying your concept of having quick skirmishes is wrong or poorly designed, because that would completely and utterly change the whole concept and drive behind the game. In my case, I believe they've got a really good idea. I feel it is just, it needs a bit of a life vest right now because the current is a little bit rocky. And I keep, as a player, running up against more and more rocks that are getting bigger and bigger. And it's battering me instead of letting me ride the ride and go with the flow of the current. I'm not getting that. I'm kind of being hit a little bit here and there. And I swear to you, once they fix the translation, I bet you it's going to be a completely different turnaround. And I'm going to be sitting there going, wow, this had no problem at all with this because I get it. But because of the fact, after 2.5 weeks of playing, I'm still sitting here going, I think this fight will let me win. I think something just really needs to be tweaked there. But other than that, yeah. So, yes, you now have our in-game names. You have please come play with us. But yes, and we will, of course, like I said, grade on when we go to do our last show, because I have a feeling that things are going to change. I mean, this is an open beta, people. Yeah. It's an open beta.
It's open beta. There's stuff coming.
Oh my gosh,
There may be a surprise next week. I forgot about that. There may be a surprise next week. We're in contact with the developers. Hopefully for next week there should be something new to come up when we do our constructed and limited playability show. That has a direct input into the constructed and limited playability. So next week's show, we're doing exactly that. We're looking at, for this game, it will be constructed playability, because as it stands right now, there is no limited, but we'll be offering some suggestions as to how you could work limited in this format, and also the systems of rankings and how to extend and condense the way that the game's working now. Plus, looking at the different deck types and how to build a deck and all that sort of stuff.
Oh God, yes. That's going to be exciting. I mean, I will tell you, having played as much as I have ideas for what I think can make a good deck in the various different chaos, order, and neutral deck type things, even combo decks where you can have a couple of each, etc. I have some really good ideas. My problem is I can't prove them right or wrong because of the little barrier to entry problems we've mentioned today. But we'll see what ends up happening. I'm really looking forward to that. But yes. So you all have homework. Go out and play this and get to the point where when you click on the country, you're beating me.
Yes.
I'm the casual one.
Canadian flags. So show me some Canadian flags.
Ooh, Canada! Or Canada. Canada. Wow.
Oh my God.
But yes, on that note, it leaves me to thank you, Dr. Marsh. You have been absolutely amazing yet again. And I leave with a single gold star, folks.
A single one. And chances are she'll lose it before the next episode airs. But
I lose gold star just for talking to you, Marsh. That's not fair.
This is true. You have interrupted my thoughts. Go away. You lose a gold star.
But yes, and I also want to give a very big heads up, by the way, to the developers of Battle for Gia, because what you guys don't see are the communications we have in the background, and they have asked us, be honest. They haven't said, sugarcoat this. They've said, tell us if there's something wrong, tell us. And the fact that they're eager for feedback. Oh, let's just say that's going to make our final show when we start getting into community and things like that a very, very good thing. So get out there, play the game, tell them what's going on. If they run across something that's a little bonkers or bizarre, well, there you go. Tell them so that they can kind of work with it. And for some reason, Dr. Marshmellow blinked out on me for a second, but you're there, yes?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi,
kids.
Stop that. Right. So because of the fact that I have this space-time continuum thing going on, and I'm here but not really here at the same time because of magic and math, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. This upcoming week on MMO Buff, we are going to be doing our 100th episode. We've done so many episodes, and I did a little math, and I went, oh, wow, we are really close to 100 episodes recorded and put up on YouTube and played, etc. And I am going to wear something very special for our 100th episode. But on Monday, hopefully Mispa will be back and not be ill. No, I've got something better planned.
Full-size chiller suit.
No.
Ross Dower in a gimp mask.
No. Stop it. Allow me to continue. But yes, this Monday I'm hoping to have Mispa back. If not, I'll bring back the diametrically opposed dynamic bearded duo or some other people from the MMO Buff team, and we'll dig into some more topics. On Tuesday, we have a guest coming in for the campfire, and it is going to be it's going to be interesting because she's pretty darn well known for stuff that she does, and it's going to be interesting. I'll just leave it at that. Yes, on Wednesday we're hoping to have the entire team back for the Blizzard forecast, since unfortunately Parv was sick, Mizpa was sick, and Trollden was traveling
by the CIA.
He was captured by the CIA. If you don't know what I mean, go back to YouTube and watch our episode. And Blank Space was taking care of the Viking Princess. And Marsh and I and Trollden had already pre-recorded the top draw version for the Blizzard forecast. So, yeah, that's up on YouTube. Definitely worth checking out, including the outtakes. The outtakes are brilliant. And then, of course, on Thursday, we have episode 2 of our new show, The Data Mine, where Danny and myself are going to be joined by the CEO of UKI.info. And this is actually a very big organization that is all about trying to help understand legal problems and other bunch of things when it all comes down to developing games. And then Friday, we'll be back with the Cosmotronic. And then next week on Saturday, we're back with Top Draw. Holy cow. That was a lot.
All crazy.
It's bloody insane. You know what's even more insane? I'm on every single episode or every single show.
Yeah, you are too.
I am on every single show.
Who needs a life?
I think people are going to get sick of me. But yes, on that note, Marsh, just whack my mic, but thank you so much for joining me again. It is always a pleasure to discuss things with you, especially with your perspective and your point of view, as well as being trolled by you, because, yeah.
Because math.
Because math.
Yes, Media, always a pleasure, never a chore. Cheerio, mortals, pip pip, and all that jazz.
Yes, and it leaves me to say to everyone, toodle pip, and remember, if you've got questions or you really want to understand something and you want to get in touch with us, voice at MMOBuff.TV or ta-ching, Twitters. You're not going to point to your Twitters.
Twitters. I don't. I have one. I'm not quite sure how to use one, but I have it.
I'm so tempted to remove a black pentagram from you just so that you learn how to use the Twitters.
Never.
But I won't do that because unlike you, I'm fair and balanced.
Fair's overrated.
So is balanced. Anyway, on that note, tittle pip, guys. Bye-byes.
Bye.